We've finally come to your
I've been waiting
favourite
for this one.
film, Stephen.
So I've waited probably about 30 weeks for this.
Yeah, 25th classic.
Yeah, and you count Christmas and all the extra ones we've done.
I know.
I've waited for this one. 6 months.
So, folks, welcome to the Jamie and Stephen show. Let's talk movies, music and magic. And yeah, this film is about magic.
It is.
A pig with magic powers and a cauldron with dark powers. Yes. Yes. If you don't get already, we are here to discuss The Black Cauldron.
Which is the best.
The 25th classic. The tainted one. The one that nobody likes to discuss.
Apart from me.
The one that Disney wishes didn't happen. But it did. But I would say the one that caused the big turnaround. I think if it wasn't for this film...
I am here today to myth bust.
Okay.
Because there are some myths out there about this film that were just...
Not true.
Not true. Or have been...
Exaggerated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we go along, if any come up...
Okay.
If I can prove that it's a myth...
Okay.
I'll be like, it's a myth.
All right, okay.
Should have a little alarm, shouldn't I?
I know. Myth!
Myth.
Or just go, meh. Right, so we'll get right into it. So, IMDb synopsis. A young boy and a group of misfit friends embark on a quest to find a dark magic item of ultimate power before a diabolical tyrant can. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because people don't have a lot of love for this film, they kind of just write whatever.
Yeah. I'd say that's quite a good synopsis considering the storyline is a bit...
Not for me, it's not. No.
A bit mismatched.
Defend this
you can try and defend it all you want, Stephen.
Well...
But the truth is, yeah, that's a pretty good synopsis considering not many people could tell you what the story is after watching it. It's an hour and 20 minutes.
Yes.
Which I was really surprised at. A, I felt it was longer.
No.
And B, considering they cut, it could have been longer if the story was better. Yeah. I feel like I'm scared the bits that were cut made it better. Yeah.
Do you know what bits have been
No.
cut? Ooh,
Okay.
Yes. Bye-bye, go, if you're listening, because I know you are. And I haven't seen you in Sainsbury's for a while. But I want you to reinstate those scenes, because they're all animated and they're all finished. Scored and everything.
Yeah, I used to be part of a Facebook page that
and
that petitioned for it to be unedited.
Released
yeah.
In its whole, and do you know what? I think people would respect it more.
Okay.
Because the cuts in there, yeah. Well, we'll get to them when we get to them.
It's 6.3 stars on IMDb.
Do you know what?
I think that's generous.
Because I saw that, and yeah,
you thought it would be worse.
I thought it would be worse.
I thought it would be worse. I thought that was...
But only because everyone thinks this is a crap film, so I thought it was going to be really low. I thought it was going to be like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was 6.3, I was like, yeah,
okay.
It's a 10, but and it is a 10.
Right, so I forgot to write down the exact figure of how much it made, but I know it cost over 25 million.
Well,
before it finished.
Let me fight you on that
right,
one.
Okay.
Myth.
Is it?
Myth. So, let me just get my figures, because I would like to get it right.
Okay.
If I'm going to do a bit of myth busting.
So the first myth is going to be squashed.
Myth. So, the budget could have been 25 million. However, it also has been reported that it was 44 million, which would have made it the most expensive film to that date. However, because the majority of sources say 25 million, in its opening time, when it was released, it made 21 million. So it was just shy by 4 million.
Okay.
Now, if it had been re-released, it would have earned that.
Yeah.
So if we go back to Pinocchio and to Fantasia and all of those that had re-releases and then made the profit, the Black Cauldron would have done it.
So it is 25 million.
So 25
approximately.
million was the budget, yeah.
Okay.
So a bit of a myth.
It could have gone over budget.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the way that it's thingied with 44, I don't know how people got to that figure.
Because in my book, it said that when Katzenberg came in, they'd already spent 25 million.
It was finished.
Oh.
So the whole film was finished.
Okay.
He went in and edited it.
Right.
And then they just tweaked some of the scenes.
Okay.
And that's it. So unless doing all of that costs an extra
Maybe
20 million.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yes. So I know what you were saying wasn't quite the myth, but myth.
Okay. So we'll say 25 million.
Yep.
And what was the other film that cost that?
I think Fox and the Hound.
It was Fox and the Hound, was it?
And then before that, the highest one was Sleeping Beauty. Which, when we did the Sleeping Beauty contest?
Oh no, Fox and the Hound was 12. So was it Rescuers? Sorry, I'm going back on my notes. There was one, because we couldn't believe... No, Rescuers.
Do you know what? I think it was Sleeping Beauty.
Was it?
Because Sleeping Beauty was the highest budget at that point. Then it was cut drastically.
Yeah.
And then Fox and the Hound became the highest one since Sleeping Beauty.
Okay.
And then obviously...
Right, so I've written down the directors and the writers. And then I'm going to let you go in with all the facts, because this is your baby.
This is my baby.
Okay.
And just for anyone at home, I've got... Is it 6?
Pages.
Well, there's the 6 page.
Front and back.
I've got 7 pages, 6 of them front and back.
Whoa.
This is double the amount of what I normally have. So
people, get a drink.
Yeah. Pause now. Come back in a bit. Prepare yourself. I actually think, and I mentioned this to my partner Luke, I would like this to be the definitive.
Okay.
This is the definitive making of the Black Cauldron.
Right.
Because there's no information.
No, there isn't.
I mean, it's there, but it's all scattered.
I know.
And I spent a long time putting this together.
Okay.
So
I'm
yes.
excited.
And you've not even asked me for my synopsis. So.
Oh, sorry. Okay, your synopsis.
I've got 2.
Oh, 2. Right, go.
First one, everyone wants a bit of bacon.
Okay.
And the second one is Disney couldn't get the rights to Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Pretty much.
No lies were told.
No. No, clearly it was like, oh, what else could we get? Oh, well, there's this series set in Wales. Okay, we'll do that one then.
However, guess what?
What was that, a myth?
Press your little button.
Is it not set in Wales?
It's based on Welsh mythology.
Okay.
But that's not the myth.
Oh.
The myth is, although the Lord of the Rings animated one was released before the Black Cauldron, the Black Cauldron was in production before.
Oh, because it took
Lord
so
of the
long.
Rings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything to do with that film.
Okay.
Although the casting might have. Your turn.
Okay. Right, so directors.
I
know, we should have had a buzzer. I've got a game with a buzzer as well.
Yeah.
Right, so directors. Mm-hmm. So there's 2. So we've got Ted Berman and Richard Rich, who were both on Fox and the Hound.
Yeah.
So we've seen these 2 before. But I looked into Ted Berman. He's obviously the elder of the two. And he has been at Disney since Fantasia. And then Richard Rich, he joined in 1972 in the mailroom.
Oh, wow. He went through the...
Yeah, apparently he would pester staff about music and give piano lessons, and then he worked his way into different departments, and then next thing you know...
Well done, Richard Rich.
He went on to direct The Swan Princess and all the Swan Princess films that came after to the very last one. And then he also did biblical cartoons, about Moses and Old Testament, New Testament. And he also did The King and I cartoon film, which I did have on video.
Do you know what? Never had that on a video.
It was good.
Yeah, I've seen it at school, but I never had that one on video.
Yeah,
so
came out late 90s. Yeah. So he's responsible for all of that, and he is still alive, but Ted Berman obviously passed. I think he passed like early 2000s.
Remember the name Richard Rich.
Okay.
Because I've got a few.
Okay. Well, I can't forget because it reminds me of Richie Rich. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right, the writers.
Writers this is.
So, not including, because Lloyd Alexander is down as a writer, but obviously he is the original author of the series of books called The Chronicles of Prydain.
Which?
Or Prydain.
I would say Prydain.
I would say Prydain.
See,
but I could be different in Welsh.
Yeah. I mean, I read them.
Yeah.
I read them as a sex. There's 5 of them. And, I mean, they're based on Welsh mythology anyway. Yeah. So none of the stories are particularly new, if you know what I mean. But it's like he sat there and he's wrote those versions. So exactly the same as what happened with, like, Snow White and all of those ones. This film's got nothing to do with them books.
No.
So, yeah.
Right, so, not including Lloyd Alexander, do you know how many writers there are?
Oh, I couldn't tell you the number.
Okay, well, I wrote the number down.
I bet I've got facts somewhere along the line.
19.
Yeah, I don't believe you. I do believe you, I don't disagree.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly run through them all.
Yep.
Not all of them I'm going to do because you'll recognise a lot of the names.
That's fine, yeah.
So, David Jonas. He was the layout artist for the animated Lord of the Rings film.
Fair enough.
So he's a writer on this. Vance Jerry worked at Disney and with Don Bluth. So on his credits, he worked both studios. Al Wilson, layout artist on Scooby-Doo. Roy Morita, layout artist for Winnie the Pooh and A Day for ER and Bugs Bunny cartoons. It was the Bugs Bunny and Tweety Pie series.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we saw it as a kid. It was the 80s stuff, 80s, 90s. Peter Young. This is quite sad. I could not find out exactly what the cause was, but apparently it was due to complications of flu. He passed away at age 37, October 1985. So when the film was released. And he was a writer on Basil and Oliver as well. So he was in the teams for all 3 of those films. So that's really sad. Ted Berman and Richard Rich are also credited as writers. We've got Art Stevens and Joe Hale, who we know. Rosemary Ann Season. She's a writer.
Yeah.
And she's credited as writing for Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah.
And the Young Indiana Jones series.
I was going to say, I got the Young Indiana Jones series, but...
I mean, there's loads.
Let me link it back into something we've mentioned before.
Oh, okay.
She wrote the film for Wind in the Willows with David Jason. And she wrote a few of the episodes as well. Here in the UK, she did Upstairs and Downstairs.
Yeah.
And she also did The Six Wives of Henry VIII. And there is loads that you have. The episodes she wrote on the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles were with George Lucas. They're co-writers.
Wow. How cool is that?
So, a few links, but this is our only Disney animation.
Yeah.
Because she was British.
Yeah.
She wanted a British writer.
Okay.
So.
Didn't really help, but anyway. Roy E. Disney is credited as a writer.
Okay.
But, yeah. Tony Marino. He was a writer for the Little Mermaid series, Super Mario Brothers series, Ghostbusters series, like all those like late 80s, early 90s cartoon series. Steve Hewlett, also a writer for Basil and Oliver. Mm-hmm. So him and Peter Young so far are on all three.
Yeah.
Mel Shaw, he went on until Brother Bear. Oh. Yeah, that's his last credited film. And he started all the way back at Bambi.
Now you've mentioned that, I did write something about that.
Okay.
When I go through all like a timeline thing.
We've got Bernie Mattinson.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. John Musker.
Okay.
Ron Clements.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really need to say their credits. No. Now, Dorg Leffler. He went on to be in art department for Doctor Strange 2.
Oh, okay.
X-Men Days of Future Past, Deadpool, Tomb Raider, like all these action films. It was huge. So he doesn't stick with animation. He goes on to the art department for live action films. And then lastly, there's Mark Zaslov, which is uncredited, and he was a story editor for Tailspin and the Winnie the Pooh series.
Oh.
So yeah, they are the 19 responsible for this mess.
It's not a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Mess. Aren't they just the most 80s people? Like, you've just mentioned all of those 80s cartoons,
I know.
Early 90s.
Yeah.
Like, they produced that era.
Mm-hmm.
So, some really, really big names in this film, which, made it one of the best.
Yeah. Right, cast.
Yes. On book 2. Not even joking, I ran out of space in my last notebook.
God.
So yes, cast.
Okay. Shall I go with the cast? And then
I'll pop up because I've got a lot of talking to do afterwards. So,
right, okay.
Yeah. You get it out now and then have your drink.
Before I get on with the cast, I wrote down as well that this film, both Andreas Deha and Tim Burton were in Disney, not necessarily working on this film, but they were. They did work on the film.
Yeah,
okay,
they did, yeah.
Because their names were in my book,
and they were in the same cubicle.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, whilst working on.
Oh my God!
Bits like this,
because we know obviously Tim Burton was working on Fox and the Hound.
Well, guess what? He was doodling. He wasn't working on this.
Oh,
what's this?
Was it a Pumpkin King?
What's this?
Right, so cast. Right, Taran was voiced by Grant Bardsley.
Yep. No.
Yeah. I've written down the famous 5.
Yes.
And he was on one episode of the Muppet Television.
Yes.
But couldn't find a picture, and he basically was clearly a young actor, late 70s and then into the 80s, and then obviously...
I had to really dig for this.
Did you?
I had to really, really dig, and I found he appeared in that episode of Muppet Television and Tales of the Unexpected here in the UK.
Okay.
And the Famous 5 TV series. I'm assuming he's still alive. I did see a picture of him. Oh. So I did find a picture.
Okay.
He was born in 1966.
Okay.
So he would have...
Yeah, he would be alive.
He was a child actor, and then, to be honest with you, I think that Muppet Television, I think that was his last credit. So yeah, I had to really dig deep to find a birth year. And I managed to come across it on about 2 or 3 sites in the end, and one of them was one of those sites where it's like, who's such and such dating. So he's single, if anyone wanted to know that one. And apparently he's 5'11".
Oh, okay. Same height as Ben.
So, if anyone wants, to know any of that.
Eilon Way is played by Susan Sheridan.
Yes.
And, hold on, God, I can't read my writing. She was in Midsummer Murders.
Yep.
And, The Moomins.
Yes. Now, this may have bypassed...
I'm assuming the English voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she was basically, although, so she was born 1947, she died 2015. So
okay.
She was quite young.
Yeah.
She was Noddy in Noddy's Toyland Adventures, so that 90s.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, she provided a few other characters, so that was 92 to 94. She also played voices in The Family Nest, which, okay, if you don't know what that is,
no, I don't know.
Go onto YouTube, just type in The Family Nest. Now there is 2 theme tunes that has, and the end theme tune is basically my childhood.
Okay.
Albert the Fifth Musketeer, did you ever watch that? No? Okay. Anyone who lived or had a childhood through the 90s.
Yeah, I watched, you
were a little bit older.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah.
But basically, Family Nest, Albert the Fifth Musketeer, Little Polar Bear, The Animal Shelf. She was a voice. She wasn't Budgie, but she was a voice in Budgie the Little Helicopter.
No, didn't watch that.
The Moomins, as you said, and Beano Video Stars. So, yeah.
No, I watched cool programmes.
Well, I think that's just highlighted the difference in our age.
Yeah,
just that little bit, because they're all very young. I mean, Noddy, 1992 to 94, that's your... I'd have been 2 to 4 years old, so it was obvious that I'd be watching those.
Yeah.
But yes, it does mean that princess-wise, apart from Aurora, the next surviving princess is...
How long way? Oh yeah, after this, yeah. I know, and it annoys me that she's never included.
Oh, I mean,
because she is a princess.
Yeah, she is.
It really annoys me.
Yeah.
But we'll get to her character later because she's probably the only.
Go on, Deja.
She's probably one of the good ones. Anyway, Dalbin is played by Freddie Jones. And he starred in the original Dune film, The Elephant Man, Count of Monte Cristo, among others.
So I had, so he was born 1927, passed away 2019. Anyone who watched British TV in the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s would have watched the programme that he's been in.
Okay.
So, and I'll take a deep breath.
Right.
So I didn't write them all.
Okay.
I just wrote the ones that I feel you may have heard of.
Okay.
Or others may have heard of. So, Z-Cars, The Bill, Heartbeat, Casualty, The Avengers, the original one.
Okay.
The Wednesday Play, Jack and Ori, The Caesars, The Saint, Randall and Hercop Deceased, Doctor at Large, Jason King, The Goodies, The Protectors, Bowler, Armchair Theatre, All Creatures Great and Small, Space 1999, Just William, Nicholas Nickleby, Duchess of Duke Street, Target, Play for Today, the 1980s, June, and Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. Also, Young Sherlock Holmes, Hale and Pace, Inspector Morse, Emmerdale for a number of years.
Wow.
And the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Really?
Yes.
God.
And they're just the ones that
you thought I would know.
Either you or
the audience
will know.
Okay.
You'll know his son.
Oh?
Toby Jones. Captain America.
Captain America?
He is the
Doctor.
Arnim Zola.
Yeah. And for those recently, he's played in the Sub Postmasters drama series. Yes, he was the main guy that...
And he's Dobby in Harry Potter.
Is he?
Yes, and just to bring it back to Disney,
okay,
he's Owl in Christopher Robin.
Aww.
So he...
Yeah, I do love Toby Jones. He's
So,
a
yeah,
brilliant
that's-
actor.
Toby Jones' son.
Yeah.
He's been in Doctor Who as well. But
Of course he has.
Freddie Jones didn't do Doctor Who. And yet there he was on Casualty and all them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you would see his face if you...
Yeah.
Not if you religiously watched them, but you would have known him from Emmerdale if you
Yeah.
watched Emmerdale.
No, I
in the
didn't.
Last, about 20 years. I think he was in there for about 5 or 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Played the vicar's dad, Ashley's dad. I don't
Never
know his
watched
name.
it.
No.
Yeah. Fluder.
Fluder Flam. Oh,
Yeah.
That's a completely wrong accent.
Fluder is played by Nigel Hawthorne, which is probably one of the most, one of the 3 famous. Yeah. So he starred as King George in Madness of King George, Yes Minister, and he was Jane's dad in Tarzan.
Yes, and I wrote the name Alchemy Disso Porter because I was like, I'm never going to remember that.
King Edeling. Edelig.
King
Is-
of the Fair Folk.
Yeah. Is Arthur Mallet, who we know before as Mr. Dawes
Wobble
Jr.
your head. Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins! Yeah, he was Mr. Dawes Jr. And obviously I mentioned before that he also plays Toodles in the Hook film as well. Gurgi and Dolly
Yes.
is played by John Byner. And when I looked him up, apparently he's a famous impressionist and voice actor.
Yeah, because there was...
Apparently he was known in his time as the most famous impressionist
It's that
comedy, obviously.
silver era of Hollywood. So
Yeah.
although he didn't do James Dean, but that kind of era.
Yeah, so I wrote down he was in What's Up, Doc with Barbara Streisand. Maud with her from
Don't look at me.
Golden Girls. Dorothy.
Oh,
What's her
B.
name?
Arthur's.
B. Arthur's Maud.
Remember that name.
Okay, B. Arthur.
In a few weeks' time.
Oh, okay. The Odd Couple
Oh, okay.
as well. So he was in that.
I got... he did some voice work on Angry Beavers. You've never heard of Angry Beavers?
No.
You're going to have to be educated on that. So basically, before SpongeBob, there was Angry Beavers.
Okay.
Elsewhere, did you used to watch the old Pink Panthers?
The cartoons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you remember there used to be an Ant and an Aardvark
No.
short within the... Well,
No.
anyway, he played the Ant and the Aardvark.
Okay.
And one of the voices he did was his impression of one of these actors. I can't think of his name. But yes.
Well, that's no use to the listeners, is it?
Google it. Can't do all the work for you. I've done 7 pages.
Google it.
Google it.
Google it. Okay, Creeper. Now, I know people won't necessarily know his name.
No.
But
Say his name.
Phil Fondacaro.
Yeah.
But, oh my God. Him and... what's the actor's name?
You're not going to say Warwick Davis.
Yes! Him and Warwick Davis, they were my childhood. And the fact that they star in, 2 films together. So they're both in Willow, and they're both in Return of the Jedi. They both play Ewoks. And he's also Polar Express. He plays the elf in Polar Express for those. So that's the most current one. But he is so famous. And the voice, is so recognisable.
I thought he'd been in even more things because of that voice.
Yeah.
I know which Ewok he is.
Do you? Are you going to say the name?
Oh, no.
Oh.
But basically, he's the only Ewok in Return of the Jedi to have a death scene.
Oh, yeah, he's the one that gets
He
killed.
wants yeah.
Yeah.
So next time you watch
Oh,
it...
that one breaks my heart.
Next
that
time
scene.
you watch it, that's him.
Okay.
From the Black Cauldron.
Oh. Right, the last two, I think, are probably the most famous. Yeah, I didn't write all the cast.
Okay, go on.
I just wrote the main. So the last two that I've got are the main actors. Like, to me, once they'd gotten these two names alone at this time would have sold me. Oh, let's go to the cinema. We've got to see the Black Cauldron.
Yeah.
The Horned King is played by the amazing,
the late great,
legend,
yeah,
John Hurt. And for those of you who've been living under a rock,
Google it,
or have never watched films, he was the Elephant Man in The Elephant Man.
Yeah.
Alien.
Yes, he's the first
He's
victim.
the first victim. Yeah, with
See, I've even got blood on my top. Look, it's bolognese.
And he is Ollivander in Harry Potter. Just to name he's been in loads. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
I said earlier on, which name did I say to listen to remember?
Maud. The B. Arthur.
Not B. Arthur. I said one before.
Did you?
Yeah.
Susan Sheridan.
No, one of the writers.
Oh.
The name you said you wouldn't forget because it reminds you of. Anyway, just to keep this podcast under an hour.
Yeah, sorry.
Richard Rich.
Oh yeah, Richie Rich, yeah.
So, not the same Richard Rich, but I found it amusing. John Hurt's first major role was in a film called A Man for All Seasons, playing a character called
Richard Rich.
Richard Rich. I just thought that was neat.
Oh.
You didn't find it?
No, I did not.
No. He was in Valiant 2005. He played a dragon in Merlin, the BBC series. He was in Thomas the Tank Engine, weirdly. In 1978, not only was he a voice in Watership Down, but he was also the voice of Arion in The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah. The film. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was it Aragorn?
Aragorn, that's it.
Aragorn, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I had that on DVD.
And he was the War Doctor in Doctor Who.
Yes. Do you know what? We went through... This is totally off subject. But because my mum was here last week, we were talking about the new Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've not got that.
I know.
Yet.
I was saying how you hadn't watched it yet.
Yeah.
And my mum, because she watched it, and my father-in-law watched it as well, but there's like 10 years between them, so they watched different Doctors, and they went through all the Doctors, and they completely forgot that John Hurt was a Doctor.
Yeah. He was only in it for one episode.
Yeah.
So...
But amazing actor. I was so gutted when he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful voice.
Oh! Like so recognisable.
Yeah, instantly. And
yeah.
You know what, actually, just... So I sat and watched the hell out of this film. And his voice is scary. His voice is one of the scariest things in this film. And I think if they'd have gone for a different actor, one, the character wouldn't be as good.
No.
And two, I don't think they would have had as many issues with the censor rating.
Do you think?
Yeah, because that voice...
You think his voice...
That voice sounds like he is rotten.
Yeah.
And dead.
Yeah.
And it's just perfect for this.
I'd love to have seen that recording of him doing the voice. Yeah. I know they didn't do that until Little Mermaid.
No, not to... Yeah, I just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last cast member I've written down is the prologue narrator, and that is John Huston. He's one of those that, you know, is up there with the likes of Marlon Brando. Like, actors who talk about other actors always talk about John Huston. And I've written down just two that people will hopefully know him from. Chinatown, which stars Jack Nicholson, and The Lord of the Rings cartoon film. He plays Gandalf.
So
another link. He plays Gandalf. And if you still don't know who he is Angelica Houston's father. Yes, her dad. And if you don't know who Angelica Houston is, Google it.
I like how we've got all these facts that people won't know, and yet, Google it.
Yeah.
So I had one or two more.
Okay.
So
you went down. Oh, the witches.
The witches were the ones that I had, and I've got another one as well. Ordu, which is the main witch.
Yes, the one with the big nose.
And I can't read my writing. Ida Reese Merrin. I mean, these are not going to be famous names.
No, which is why I didn't write them down.
However, for Disney fans, if you had the Disney read-along of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, she played the evil queen.
I did not have that read-along.
Well, there we go. The lovesick Orwen, which is the one that fancies Fluder.
Fluder, yeah.
Was Adele Mellis Morey. She was a jobbing actress. Episode of this and that, but you'll see her in one of the early episodes of ER. And Orgok was played by Billy Hayes. Now, you're not going to recognise that name.
Okay.
But think about the gravelly voice.
Yeah.
She played some background characters in The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, yeah. The witches in The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tailspin. She played certain voice. So to think of the voice.
Yes.
Darkwing Duck and Rugrats.
Wow.
So although you wouldn't
definitely
know her,
Nightmare Before Christmas, I can hear it now.
Yes. And the other one, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it, so I do apologise, but the Gwethians, which are the dragon-like creatures.
Oh, yeah. They had a voice actor.
Well, they had roars. Guess where else those roars were used? What name have I just told you to remember? Not B.
Richard Rich.
Richard Rich. And what film did he make?
Fox and the Hound.
No, the after, not Disney.
The Swan Princess.
Yeah. And so it was used in that film.
Oh, okay.
And Don Bluth's The Land Before Time. It's the dinosaurs roar.
Oh.
It's the same one.
Okay.
In the book, they're birds.
Right.
But they were made to look like Maleficent because
of Disney.
This film's based on Sleeping Beauty. Yeah.
Is it?
Yes. Oh.
Oh. Steven's throwing something in there.
You just have to wait until I get round to
Okay.
it.
Right, come on then. Let's get to the juicy bits.
And the juicy bits.
Yeah.
Okay then. So, just so I don't forget it, I'm just going to read out these bits on the first page.
Are they in chronological order, or?
They're bits, and then I've got the chronological.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, first PG-rated Disney animated film. The next one was Dinosaur, because in America they class
What?
that. Yeah. It's based on the first two books of the Chronicles of Friday, not the whole thing. It's the first Disney animated film to use CGI. So the bubbles, the boat that they escape on, the orb, the bauble, that's CGI.
Ooh.
And the cauldron.
The cauldron?
The cauldron is CGI.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just going to open a Diet Coke.
That's alright. There we go. And I've not used enough notes that we have to use copyright. So, guess... I'll do this as a guessing game. Might as well do a quiz.
Okay.
Guess who first convinced the studio in 1971 to make this film?
I'm going to say Don Bluth.
Ollie Johnson and Frank Thomas.
No way.
Yes. So they thought that because there's over 30 characters within the series and multiple storylines, that they could basically do this film.
Okay.
And there was so much that they can do. The rights were acquired in 1973.
Wow.
And at that point, because there was already The Rescuers and Robin Hood in production, this was going to be released in 1980. Mel Shaw, who you mentioned. Yes, he worked on Bambi. He also worked on Beauty and the Beast. He did the titles for The Rescuers.
Oh, he was the artist that did the chalk drawings, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He also worked on Treasure Planet and The Lion King. He did some pastel drawings, and it was Ron Miller that considered these drawings to be too complicated for animators to pull off.
Okay.
So, at this point, it kind of goes forward and backwards a little bit, but this is all around the same time. So,
okay.
The film was then pushed back in 1978 to Christmas 1984, and that 1980 slot was taken by The Fox and the Hound.
Right.
But then that was moved.
Yeah.
Vance Jerry, he then did a storyboard and concept art for the whole thing, and the Horned King was going to be a big giant Viking. So he would have had a horned hat and a big beard. Then they brought on, because she was British, British screenwriter Rosemary Ann Sisson. Tim Burton then produced concept art for this film.
Oh.
They are not Disney concept art,
okay,
but they are Tim Burton.
Right.
So have you seen in Frankenweenie?
Yeah.
So they have kind of round bodies with a big round head.
Yeah.
But then their legs and arms are really
skinny.
thin.
Yeah, are sticks.
That's what Taran would have looked like in his thing, and he had like messy hair and everything. So
wow.
Not a Disney.
No.
Disney at all. John Musker then was assigned as director, and he expanded the sequences at the beginning, but it was deemed too comedic. And then what happened is when Fox and the Hound wrapped up, Art Stevens, Richard Rich, and Ted Berman then joined over with Dave Michener. Ron Miller then said there's too many cooks, so he appointed Joe Hale as producer.
Okay.
And Joe Hale and Ron Miller rejected those Tim Burton concept art. So right now, as it stands, we're back at point 0.
Yeah.
So we're 5 years into production.
Right.
And we haven't got anywhere yet. Then what happened is work officially began on the film as we know it in 1980.
Okay.
So that is when all of the links with that Lord of the Rings would come into it.
Mm-hmm.
But production on this film really did start before Lord of the Rings. By about 5 years. Flip the page, there's page 1. Hale wanted Sleeping Beauty style. So, he wanted not so much the colours, but the visual beauty of Sleeping Beauty.
Which it doesn't have.
It didn't, did it?
No,
it didn't
no.
pull off. He wanted it to have the same kind of style, and he was inspired by Sleeping Beauty.
Okay.
Which is why the dragons look like Maleficent.
Uh-huh.
And it's also why Elonway looks like Aurora. In the same style
Briar
dress.
Rose.
Briar Rose.
Briar
Yeah,
Rose.
the Briar Rose
Yeah,
version.
she looks a bit like Briar Rose, yeah.
So, Milt Kahl, who was one of the 9 old men,
Yeah.
he was approached and brought out of retirement to do character design because Joe Hale liked Sleeping Beauty so much. And it was Milt Kahl that did the work on that.
Okay.
So, and you didn't do it, so couldn't do a button. There is a myth.
Okay.
Because Milt Kahl designed the characters, it does mean that one of the 9 old men worked on this film.
Yeah.
Where it is known as the first film that none of the 9 old men worked on.
But technically they
But
did.
he did. He designed the characters.
Yeah.
And also Ollie Johnson and Frank Thomas.
Yeah, brought it to them like 10 years prior.
Yeah. So, I didn't get to press my little button.
Yeah.
At that point, Joe Hale, Richard Rich and Ted Berman reworked the whole story. And at this point, Rosemary Sisson decided to leave. She cited creative differences. Animator Ron Clements decided to leave. He moved on to Basil, the Great Mouse Detective.
Oh, God.
And he cited creative
Differences.
John Musker was also removed from the project onto Basil, the Great Mouse Detective. And the reason behind that was, all together now, creative differences. They redesigned the Horned King, no longer a Viking.
So how is he described in the book? Do you remember?
No, not as such. He's not the villain.
Right,
the Horned King's not the villain. The face on the front of the cauldron
is the villain. And in the film, it's his soul is possessed in the cauldron. Right, okay.
Whereas in the film, in the books, spoiler alert, so it's not yet happened.
Okay.
So yeah, the Horned King's just like thinking of another Disney villain that's not the main villain. Lucifer in Cinderella.
Okay.
He's just one of those.
Right.
So,
but Disney made him the villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this around now is when that kind of
okay.
Tyron was drawn to resemble a Disney boy. So beforehand, Tim Burton's especially, but others, he didn't look Disney-fied.
Okay.
I'm going to cut in here because I'm going to convince you that this is a good film.
Okay.
This is the Disneyest of Disney films. Because, one, they based most of it on Sleeping Beauty. The geese that he's fighting with at the beginning is based on the geese in the Aristocats. They use brand new animation for the whole thing.
Yeah.
They developed a new process called the Animation Photo Transfer, APT, which was created, and it's basically a colour photocopier. A lot more technical than that, but keep it brief. Designed by David W. Spencer. It won the Academy Scientific and Technical Achievement Award. However, the ink didn't stay on the cells, so they had to revert back to Xerox.
Oh.
So they're producing a new way of working. They used the camera, that multiplane camera. The characters were redrawn and everything, including that pig, to be Disney-fied. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is the Disney of Disney films. And I'll get onto more later.
Okay.
This is a work in progress as she sits there in silence. At this point, with the Fox and the Hound, it was a new versus old guard kind of thing, and Art Stevens was removed.
Yeah.
Computer graphics were done on Basil the Great Mouse Detective, which was made before Black Cauldron, but released afterwards. And when Joe Hill found out, he asked their team to make some for the Black Cauldron. Right, okay. So...
why did he think that was going to make it better?
Yeah. He just saw what they were doing, because it's the clockwork and things.
Yeah. Oh, amazing scene. Can't wait to get to Basil.
They did the boats with the as I say, the bubbles, some other bits and whatnot. And then they took live action recordings, so it's not cornflakes snow, it's dry ice cauldron smoke. Right. So all of that smoke that comes out the cauldron is dry ice. Okay. It's real. Yeah. And you can tell when you look at it. And the fire at the end is all CGI. Wow. Which makes it look realistic. Yeah. So again, they're pushing that boundary, which is what Walt would have done. It's what these new animators want to do. So it's a Disney film. You have to appreciate that. Sound department replaced the original thunder sound that was used since 1937. However, it was used by mistake in Basil. Okay. It was already finished. So the old sound was not retired till then. It was the first Disney film to have specific sounds recorded for it, because even in Snow White, some of those sounds existed. So this was a brand new. Sound. It was one of the first 2 Disney films to be shot in Super Technorama 70 widescreen 70mm film process. Obviously being Sleeping Beauty. And then Wish was made to look like it was filmed in this.
Okay.
But anyway. And then it goes on to Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Oh.
So basically, at this point, the film is finished.
Okay.
Everything is in place. There is 12 to 15 minutes worth of extra scenes in this hour and 25. So this is an hour and 40-minute film.
Mm-hmm.
It is finished. Do you have any facts about what Jeffrey Katzenberg did?
Well, I've got my book.
Oh, your book.
my big book.
Yeah, big book.
Oh, it is a big one.
Mm.
And yes.
Set the actress to the big
So, oh, sorry, that was me hitting the microphone with the book.
That's alright, don't sue us.
Right, okay, so I'm not going to read it all, but basically, during, which you'll probably get into a bit more, but during the making of this, the board appointed the new CEOs.
They did, so they got rid of Ron Miller.
Yeah.
So Ron Miller was out of the picture.
And brought in Eisner and Wells, and Eisner brought in Katzenberg to run the film department of the company. And in doing so, he decided to visit the animation department and see what they were up to.
Basically ruined the film. Didn't ruin it. It's a good film.
I'm going to read from when Eisner appoints him. So it says, one of Michael Eisner's first executive acts had been to appoint Jeffrey Katzenberg, former head of production at Paramount, to the position of chairman of Walt Disney Pictures. It would be Katzenberg's responsibility, in tandem with Roy Disney, to determine the future of feature animation.
Can I just point out there, where did Michael Eisner work before Disney?
Yeah, it was Paramount.
It was who you know.
I know.
It is who you know.
It's who you know. Drawing on his experience with live-action movies, he announced that he would take the expensive production, it had cost about $25 million at that point, into the editing room and recut it. Katzenberg did not realise, or perhaps care, that such a notion was looked on as a sacrilege in animation circles. An animated movie is laid out in storyboards and pre-edited by layout artists and scene planners before animation ever begins. The idea that an executive would have the effrontery to cut a Disney animated feature seemed almost scandalous, and it appeared to augur badly for the future of the department.
Scandalous.
If the new regime was capable of committing such crimes against the nature of the medium, how could it be expected to support animation in the future? In reality, it was the animation department that had created the monster. Katzenberg was merely trying to save what he could of a sizable investment in the only way he knew how. Quote, "We had to get in there with a scalpel," he says. "I know this was very disturbing for some people, and I understood this, but I was not imposing my personal values on what the animators should or shouldn't be doing. I was responding to what I saw as our responsibility to the consumers, to the members of the public who vote at the box office." Katzenberg managed to trim 2 or 3 minutes from the film, but it was too late to alter the overall conception. And then it goes on to how it was made. And then it goes on to other parts, like how the animators at the time were moved out of the animation building as well during... Oh, you'll get to that. But yeah, let me just get to the end. Even before... Yeah, and then it goes on to Basil in that book. But yeah, so... Katzenberg, as we know, is in from this point, and he is there until Pocahontas, I think.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, and then he leaves for DreamWorks.
Yes.
Which, weirdly, He does a great job in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Katzenberg, just to go back a little bit over those, he arranged a viewing, and towards the end, kids ran out of the theatre. The ending was just too intense for kids. And I'll go through some of the deleted bits.
Okay.
So, he then asked for scenes to be cut because, one, he felt it was too long, and also he felt it was too graphic. So what he wanted to do was cut the length of time and some of the graphic elements. So what he decided to do is he asked the producer, John Hale, can you cut this down? And he refused. So Jeffrey Katzenberg ordered a editing machine to his office and did it himself.
Oh my God.
Obviously Joe Hale was a bit annoyed.
Yeah.
So we went to Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner came into the office and ordered him to stop. Katzenberg did say that he stopped, but on one condition, that the film would be delayed from Christmas 1984 to July 1985 so they could rework the already completed film. So that was his condition of doing it.
Right, okay. I'll stop cutting if you give me 6 months to fix it.
Yes. To which case he cut between 12 and 15 minutes, which have never been released publicly except by mistake in a trailer on the Pinocchio VHS trailer.
So there's a bit in that trailer that was from...
Very small bit.
Oh, okay.
So the majority of the cuts were at the end. So...
Oh, you can tell.
Yes. And you know what? It's ruined the film.
No!
Ruined that ending.
Stephen!
And the reason why is because... So, you mentioned at the beginning, they did not know where you can't explain the storyline. The storyline is practically in 4 parts. You've got the first part where he goes off. Second part is where he meets a long way in the castle and whatnot. Third part is with the merfolk. Not the merfolk.
The fairy folk.
The fairy folk, which he cut.
Right.
So that whole sequence, they were meant to go through that land. In the books, that is... Well, they're dwarfs in the books.
Oh, okay.
But it is a long sequence. It's the majority of one of the books.
Right.
Where you got to know all of those different characters. And you went on a journey with them through their land to get to the witches. And then you have the ending bit. So by cutting some of that out, you have a very long beginning. You have a very long in the castle, out the castle, in the castle, out the castle. And then you have a very short period of time where they just meet a fairy and then get the cauldron. And then right at the end, you have what was going to be a long sequence cut down into hardly any... It's not climactic.
No.
The original parts would have had a fight with Taran and the Horn King that went on. Okay. So they would have had huge fights.
Yeah.
And also included scenes, and this was the... I can understand why this was cut from a Disney film, but these are the type of scenes that were cut. Okay. And then I want you to make your impression of what you thought this film would be like with them reinstated. Okay. One of the Horn King's henchmen was in the way of the Cauldron-born and was seen being mauled. This causes lacerations and boils before his body rots away to become one of the Cauldron-born himself. Without these cuts, it could have been a PG-13 or an R-rated movie. Wow. Do you think if Disney was to release that as an adult animation film today, it would be seen as a classic? No. Without the extended fairy scene, without all of the bits at the end where there's a huge fight, there's...
Maybe the fight, but not the...
Not the rotting away?
No.
Or... No?
No.
Wow, you're hard to please. I mean, it would make a 10 out of 10 film into a 10.5 out of
Oh, bless you, Stephen.
10 film. I see.
Yeah.
Anything else you've got to add there?
Not to do with Katzenberg.
So,
no.
Basically, it's from here that they created the gong, where people could pitch their ideas.
Okay.
Which is why we have the Little Mermaid.
Yes, that's in that documentary, Waking Up Sleeping Beauty.
And Pocahontas.
Because they did meetings every
there.
so often where everyone would get in and they would pitch their ideas of future.
And that's because that was something that was done at Paramount.
Right, okay.
And
I think that's a good thing.
Katzenberg brought in.
Yeah.
As for the studios, animation, what we've got to remember, and we've talked about this since Walt passed away, which is about 20 years before this film's released, they were already using up valuable space on that lot in those studios. They wouldn't have stayed at the studios, regardless of whether the Black Cauldron was
a hit or not.
Or
well, no, because they moved them during the making of that.
Yeah, so it wasn't because of the performance of Black Cauldron that they were moved. If anything, it's Fox and the Hound.
Yeah, I mean, in my book, it explains that the animators clearly got the impression that the company was definitely focusing more on live action, and that was going to bring in the money, and they were put in a warehouse with Webb, the park Imagineers, because at that time they had been disowned.
But thinking about this as a company, the last person who kind of had any interest in this animation department, let's say it was Wolfgang Reitman. He's left. Yeah,
well, it's Roy.
And it's Roy O. Disney.
Yeah.
Remember, he left and came back.
Yeah, well, he partly, again, this is in my book, where Eisner invited him when he got the job. Because apparently it was Roy that...
It was Roy that wanted
Eisner,
him. And then it was Roy that wanted Rid.
I know. And then, Eisner, when he got the job, he went to Roy and said, right, thank you for, making this happen for me. What can I do? And he says, well, give me the animation department. That's all I want. And he said, okay.
Then there's Ron Miller, who is part of this. However, he was made CEO, and Roy O. Disney and others were very much like, he's not doing anything for this company. But he was actually behind the animation.
Yeah.
And he invested quite a bit into that. And he invested things into the Disney Channel, although Eisner took the glory for that.
Right.
Oh, I could do a whole podcast on this, honestly. He created Touchstone.
Yeah.
Without Touchstone, I mean, Who Framed Roger
Rabbit? That's all the live action.
Well, it's the live action that Disney couldn't make under the Disney name.
Yeah.
Well, Eisner took credit for that because it opened during his time.
Yeah, but it was Ron Miller's
done it. Ron Miller started to look at the other parks.
Right.
So, when was Tokyo opened?
82?
83. Eisner wasn't around during that time.
No, it's 84.
And yet, who takes the credit for expanding the parks across the globe?
Because of Disneyland Paris.
Because of Paris. And Hong Kong.
Oh yeah, in Hong Kong.
So, actually, the people who loved the animation department of this film were ousted.
Right, okay.
And then there were the issues with Don Bluth, the issues with Tim Burton, the issues with that kind of bubble of animators, that actually it was inevitable. Whether this film was made or not, it was inevitable. They probably would have closed down if this film was not already in production.
I mean, in my book, it states that the reason that they accepted the go-ahead for this story is because they were losing a demographic.
Teenagers.
And that was between 15 and 25 years old.
But again, Ron Miller was looking at Touchstone.
Yeah.
For those more adult films. I think Splash was the first
Splash,
one. So all the people that kind of had the backing of this have gone.
Yeah.
And the people who kind of had the know-how, knew how to do it and work on it and create the story you'd learnt with Walt have gone.
Yeah.
So you've kind of got these people who want to do what Walt was doing, and this is why I go back to it's the most Disney of all Disney films, because they wanted it to look like a Disney film. But they had people who were just...
Well, it's the young and the old. Yeah, I mean, it says there was far too many people.
Yeah,
and because of all these young animators that were now full in the department, and the old ones had gone. I mean, a lot of them had become teachers at Cal Arts. All these young animators... don't get me wrong, very talented, but nobody was really managing them properly. And
one side didn't know what sequence the other side was doing, and I mean, just because it sounds like I'm bad mouthing them when I say that, but these people were Ron Clements, John Musker, and John Lasseter.
Yeah.
Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're just some names.
Glenn Keane would have been there as well.
And
Don Hahn.
It just... These are experienced people, but there was no one in charge of this.
And when you think of what they go to then make, you do see that if they had had the right management during the making of this film would have possibly been better.
Well, I don't know how you could make it better, but I will say this, it surprised me that they didn't include any songs. But I think it's because they wanted to make it for that older audience.
Yeah, well, that's one of my issues with it.
No. Oh, so yes, here we go. Just so I wrote them down. John Lasseter, Tim Burton, worked on The Horned King with others. Andreas Deja, who also made Gaston, Scar, Jafar, Triton, Roger Rabbit, Lilo and Momorodi, to name
a few.
Worked on Tyrant and A Long Way. And he shared his cubicle with Tim Burton, as I said. Others worked on them as well. And Glenn Keane worked on A Long Way, Gurgi and Henwin. So we have the names.
Yeah.
They're there. And actually watch those characters. There's nothing wrong with them. The way that they act shut, the way they move, the way that pig is pushed over the castle walls and he's struggling and Taran's doing it. And they're animated by different people.
Yeah.
That's how it was done under Walt's time. So I think if there is a failing in this film, it's that Walt wasn't there. And there was no one in Walt's shoes. And it's telling that when you look over the next few decades, especially with John Lasseter, when you do have someone like that, you start making magic. And the magic was all there, and Disney let themselves down. So yes, I think that might be my making of. I've got a few things about the performance and the afterwards. This is going to be a long podcast, people. If you want a drink, go make it now. I'll pause. We'll pause for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're back.
Okay.
So, there was no VHS release for over a decade.
God.
So at this point, they would have released a video within a year or two.
I'm not going to lie. Mine was a pirate copy.
I had mine. I had the 1998 copy, which was only released because fans petitioned.
Yeah.
So we need to get online, people, and petition for the full-length cut.
Hasn't it finally been released on Blu-ray?
I'll come to that. Okay. It was beaten by the Care Bears movie.
Oh my God! I loved the Care Bears movie.
Do you want to know what makes this a little bit worse? Care Bears movie didn't even release at the same time. It was released before.
Oh my God.
The Black Cauldron. It wasn't even the same.
So it released earlier in that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that film.
By about 2 months. August.
God.
And it was still beaten at the box office. Anyway, Ollie Johnson and Frank Thomas disliked the film. They called it a waste of an opportunity.
Yeah.
However, Lloyd Alexander said it's not his book.
No.
But it's an enjoyable film.
Yeah, I did read that quote. Yeah.
And basically because of the response, although Disney have never officially said this, it is believed that is why Alonwe is not an official princess.
Terrible.
Which obviously happens with Kida in Atlantis.
Yeah.
And yet Pocahontas and Mulan, well, they're princesses in their cultures. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. However,
Mulan is not a princess.
Alonwe. No, she's classed as a princess.
No, she's not a princess. She's a warrior.
Because she's the equal rank of what a princess would be. That's what Disney say.
Well, no, rubbish.
Other thing, Care Bears, they did a TV series.
Yes, which I watched.
Guess who wrote some of the music?
Oh, is it...
Mary Poppins.
the Sherman Brothers.
The Sherman Brothers.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was looking to see if they had written for the film, but they didn't.
No.
But they did for the TV series. One of the first films actually to not receive a re-release. It was, however, severely edited and shown on television. A DVD was released in 2000, so only 2 years after the VHS. And the 25th anniversary edition, which is one I had and bought from the Disney store when I worked there, was in 2009. It was finally released on Blu-ray in 2021.
Yeah.
The 4th of May. Only for Disney Movie Club members.
Okay. I mean, it's on Disney Plus, so...
Talking of Disney Plus, it's available as 4K, and it is the first film to bypass a Blu-ray before being released on HD on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
However, it's also one of two films to bypass a 4K, or not to be released on 4K, but is available on 4K, and the other one is Sword in the Stone.
Oh.
And who is Taran based on?
Arthur. Yeah.
Few links.
But he just doesn't have a Merlin.
He has a sword, he has an old man in a cottage, there's a pig that can tell the future, there's a glowy ball, and there is a harp. That harp.
Oh.
I was laughing at that. Were you
Oh,
not?
really? Was that the only funny bit?
No, there's more than one funny
No.
bit. No, honestly, every time he goes to tell a lie, he's literally, he tells the witch who's after him, do you not find me attractive? It's like, you are very attractive, madam. And he goes, Pyong, it's not now. So anyway. Yeah. I've got a few little bits, and then I'll go on to like Hidden Mickey's computer games and the parks. Because I did send you a little.
Oh
photo
yeah,
yesterday.
she did. You did.
It's not going to be as exciting as you think.
Oh, okay.
There is a video that.
Okay.
We mentioned Nightmare Before Christmas. In the early drawings of A Long Way, she had bare feet, and that's because in the books she walks barefoot.
Okay.
She's described as having red hair in the books, so she's a ginger.
Okay, so obviously because they wanted to make her more Briar Rose, they gave her blonde hair.
Yeah. It's the first hand-drawn Disney film not to feature any musical elements. It is not the first to feature no songs because I can't pronounce his name. Fleur de Flamme sings a song.
Well, yeah, okay. Sorry, I need to blow my nose.
It's okay.
And we're back.
Yeah. Some clever editing there. It's the first animated film to use its own sound effects, which I mentioned before. Mm-hmm. It was the first animated film to use the Walt Disney Pictures logo in the opening credits. So you know that castle?
Mm-hmm.
The music for the logo was composed by John Debney. Do you know what other film he composed the score for?
Oh, will I know it?
Yes.
Oh.
You'll know this film. It's the 90s. It's live action, but it's the 90s for a Disney film.
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus.
Oh, boom.
Yes, straight in there. Well, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like a Once Upon a Halloween cartoon movie that they made. It was part of the House of Mouse, House of Villains kind of era. Suggests that the film takes place in the same setting as Snow White, but just earlier.
Oh!
It's the first Disney film to not end with the words "the end."
Okay.
Because it has closing credits. And it was going to be released as Taran and the Magic Cauldron in 1990. I won't tell you the month, because people will be able to fraudulently,
Okay.
fraud me. But that plan was dropped.
Right.
However, there are adverts, trailers, and there are some television screenings which list the film as Taran and the Magic Cauldron.
Oh.
The Black Cauldron. So, they're my facts. I still have more.
Really?
I still have more. So I'm going to just splurt them.
Okay.
Hidden Mickeys and Other Appearances.
Okay.
Doesn't feature at the end of Wish. Annoyed with.
Shocker.
I don't think it's got anything to do with the copyright. But
It's because it's blacklisted.
No, because the Rescuers don't feature either.
I know, but we think that is to do with copyright, don't we?
I am trying. I'm still trying.
But when we
find
get
that.
to Wish,
maybe
that is going to be a big discussion for us.
Yes.
Yeah. The end credits.
They featured on the House of Mouse and the House of Villains. Tinkerbell's one of the fairies in the fairy
Is she?
section. She is. A majority of characters feature in Once Upon a Studio, and a majority of characters featured in a short-lived Disney Junior show called A Poem Is, with guest stars, and some of the guest stars include the Horn King. This is Disney Junior. And those dragons.
Oh, okay.
Because why not? And the Horn King also had a cameo appearance in Darkwing Duck.
Okay.
Which, are they on Disney Plus?
I think so.
Because if they are, I'm going to have to find that
I think it is. I'm
cameo.
sure Finley's tried to watch them.
I'm going to have to find that cameo. Computer games. A game was released by Sierra Online. If you look on one website, it says it was released in 1985, but it was released in 1986.
Okay.
It's an adventure game loosely based on the film. You can play it for free if you find the right websites online. It's similar to a game called King's Quest.
Okay.
Which came out just before this. Characters feature on Disney's Magic Kingdom in 2016. These are games. Disney Heroes Battle Mode as badges in 2018.
Okay.
Land of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse.
We've got that game.
1992, the Sega.
Oh, well, we've got it for the Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse, the Game Boy game from 1989. These look really, really good, but these are not going to be good.
Okay,
Wow.
yeah.
Mickey Mouse 3,
Oh.
Balloon Dreams, released in 1992. Disney Tsum Tsums game.
Oh, yeah, Zoom Zooms, yes, I used to have that on my phone.
Yeah, I couldn't find a release date to it, but Disney's Emoji Blitz, the 2016,
Yes, I had that game as well on my phone.
Well, we did.
Remember, yeah.
2016, and Disney's Sorcerer's Arena, which started in 2020. However, it closes in July the 31st, 2024.
Okay.
So you've got a month and a bit
Okay.
to try and find these characters. I think as Disney's forgotten film, I think Disney have still tried to do things with this film.
Yeah.
And I think they've tried to do things more recently, but I think in that 80s period before they had the Renaissance, I think they really did try to do more things with this.
I think that certain members of the company at that time felt that it would curse the company if they spoke about it or acknowledged it or included it because of the run they had during the Renaissance.
I was going to say, the trouble with this film...
Which is probably why it was never re-released.
Yeah.
It wasn't released on video till so late.
Yes. I mean, what you got to remember is, this film's 1985, mid-1985. You then have Basil come out the year after. But then you have Roger Rabbit, Oliver and Company, and The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Okay, you have a bit of a blip after that with The Rescuers Down Under. But then you've got Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin.
Mm-hmm. But when we get to Rescuers Down Under, there's a reason.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
But we're not even a decade away from that yet. And let's think about a film that was a decade ago from now, which was Big Hero 6.
Yeah, which... It's not my fave.
No.
I don't rate it.
But out of the decade of films that Disney have had, Moana, Zootopia, the two Frozen films.
Yeah. Encanto.
Wish.
Yeah.
Would you say that Big Hero 6 is mentioned as much?
Yeah.
What about Wreck-It Ralph?
I would say Ralph Breaks the Internet and, well, no, A Strange World.
So what we've got to remember is that...
There's always one.
But this
in a run of years, there's always one or two that doesn't quite hit it.
So this is within the same 5 years as The Little Mermaid or Company. And I know it's not animating plastic, but Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
You then got the Disney Channel with DuckTales.
Yeah, Rescue Rangers, Tailspin,
all of those.
Jungle Cubs, all that to come, yeah.
So suddenly you've got all of that.
Yeah.
And this film should be part of that era, and I think people were doing it, but as soon as something better came along, it was like, hide this, we'll do it. And now there's more of a renaissance of those hidden films, like Robin Hood, like Fox and the Hound, and The Rescuers especially. More and more things are coming up. So there's been more merchandise in the last 5 years than there has since the film was released. So in the parks, and I will stop talking in a minute. In Tokyo Disneyland, it was a ride called Cinderella Castle Mystery Tour.
Okay.
And you walked through, and at the end was an audio animatronic horned king, and he was big.
Life size.
He had the cauldron. He had everything.
Wow.
And the thing is, there is a video.
Okay.
So watch it.
Google
it. He looks amazing. It closed in 2006. So it went on.
For a while.
For a long while. He was the end. Because this is like a villain ride.
Okay.
And there's actually pictures on the wall. So think of Haunted Mansion. Where you would have a picture of Taran. And after a while, it will change to the Horned King.
Oh!
On the same wall is Snow White with the old hag, Aurora with Maleficent, and Pinocchio with Stromboli.
So, was it because the film was a bit of a hit in Japan? I mean, had a bit of a success?
He was a good villain.
Yeah.
And it was made... You got to think Tokyo opened at the beginning of the 80s.
Yeah.
This is all kind of that period.
So what did they replace that with?
I'm not too sure. No, I'm not too sure.
Okay. If any park goers know, let us know.
Wonderful World of Animation was the projection show on Hollywood Studios, which is still on. I've seen it.
Okay.
This is the one I've seen. We went to Hollywood Studios and it's projected on the Chinese...
the Gresham Theatre. Yeah.
And...
Grossman's Theatre.
It just kept coming with the different films, and they're like in bubbles and clouds and everything. And the Black Cauldron came on, and I mean, Luke was stood next to me, and I grabbed him. I was like, "The Black Cauldron! Maybe they'll do that as well." And every single film, every single classic to that point,
was
up there.
Wow!
So even like Home on the Range and
oh my god,
Dinosaur.
Wow.
I was really impressed with it. Gergi and Taran appear in a gallery in Shanghai's Disneyland's Mickey and Powell's Market Cafe.
Okay.
So there's some murals on the wall. There's a big mural used to be at Disney World and that got destroyed. It's the meet and greet area.
Okay.
The Wondrous Journeys fireworks display to celebrate 100 also features characters from the Black Cauldron.
Okay.
It's to celebrate the 100 years.
Yeah.
It came out last year, and it's on now. I think they've.
I think it's still on.
Yeah, no, but it does close.
Oh,
or it's
okay.
just closed.
Oh, okay.
Might close just the end of May or something like that. But they did put it back on.
I mean, I've seen the YouTube video.
I think it's going to go back. You've seen the YouTube. You were there when it was on. You were there last October.
They didn't have that.
Yeah, that was the firework. That was the light projection and the Disney 100 years.
No, not in Disneyland Paris. It was crap.
Oh.
Yeah. No.
Well, I saw it in California.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
She went Paris, we went
I know.
Anyway. Taran and Alonway. They were meet and greets.
Were they?
Yeah, when the film came out. And then they were quickly packed away. Never seen again. There were murals of the film in the Walt Disney Story. When you go to Florida, it's in Hollywood Studios, and it's done like a theatre, like an old theatre.
Yeah.
And one side is showing, or it was showing, a Monsters Inc. short.
Okay.
And on the other side is the story of Walt.
And there's a thing in there.
It's an adult. It's catered to adults. It's very educational things. It's got pictures, drawings, artwork and things, and models. But yeah, it's very, very good. You'll enjoy it.
Okay.
And the final thing, it's a little personal thing with me and thee.
Okay.
It was called Gergi's Munches and Crunches.
Yeah.
And someone bought me a mug.
That's
and
right.
a coaster a little while ago, which has the logo of Gergi's Munches and Crunches on. It replaced Friar Tuck's place. And it's now Lumiere's.
Oh, okay.
So when you go to Lumiere, it's there.
Right.
There were no pictures.
Oh.
I could not find any pictures other than the sign. But yes. But just to prove that I still think it's upstairs, the coaster next to my bed, and the mug is at work.
I like Gergi.
Opened in 1986. It was originally Lance's Inn.
Okay.
Way back when.
Whoa.
And it closed in 1993, so it wasn't open that long. Sold chicken.
Right. So original.
So yeah, they did feature the at the park. I found
briefly
a lot more
than
than
you
I
thought
was
you were
expecting.
gonna. Yeah.
Yeah, I was only looking for a meet and greet.
Okay.
And I wanted to know the name of that light show when it was on.
Yeah.
But I found all of that.
Wow.
So yes, and I'm done.
Wow. Right.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this one.
Okay,
So
I know.
Do you know what? I hope that people go, do you know what? Have you ever seen Black Cauldron? Yeah, I have. You don't hear much about it, do you? No, well, there's this podcast. And you've just listened to it.
Yeah.
Well, the fact part, anyway.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you the problems.
Where's me little buzzer for the
Okay, so straight away, in big, like, I've drawn around it. Like, the story, for me, is the biggest issue. It's...
Go on then, tell me why the story is not good.
Okay, so I think it's too dark. And I know it was going to be darker.
It's too dark for a Disney film.
But I think it was too dark. I think they felt too much pressure from what was going on elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And when I mean elsewhere, I mean in other studios.
Yeah.
Not just animation.
Well, this had to go up against Star Wars,
Yeah.
Ghostbusters.
I was just a way to say.
E.T.
Sci-fi
Alien.
and fantasy is really big at this point. There's loads of films that I grew up with as a kid. I was born in this decade.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with loads of films to do with, fantasy and I was going to say fantasy and Star Wars. Fantasy and sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a massive Lord of the Rings fan.
I see, I'm not.
So, and I had the Lord of the Rings cartoon again. Like, I think my grandma, it came on the TV, my grandma recorded it. So I had that. And there was other cartoons as well done. Like, it's not well known, but there's another one called Flight of Dragons, which I loved.
I've heard of that, but I
and yeah, so for me, they had such a good opportunity to take a movie of that genre, and if they'd kept Disney rules from previous films,
yes,
and made it their own, instead of trying to make what other people were making, this could have been a great, and they could have done more. I feel like, considering, like you said earlier, the author said, well, it's not my books, but it's a good film.
Yeah, it's a nice film.
There's 5 books, am I right?
Yeah.
5. The fact that they just focused on the first 2 and still didn't make it anywhere near the books says that, again, that alone is a problem.
You see, reading those books...
I mean, are they easy to read?
Yeah, they're children's books.
Right, so it's not like Lord of the Rings.
No, but do you know what? They deep dive into fantasy.
Yeah.
They deep dive. You have to be... I did struggle reading them because I'm not into Lord of the Rings. I'm not...
No.
Really surprises people when I say I really love this film, but I don't like Lord of the Rings. They're very, very much that kind of thing, and they're very... You have to be in your mythology and things, and I think if they'd have focused on the first book or the second book, I don't think at this point in history of Disney or studios or anything, they couldn't have done it. So
well, they clearly didn't have the right people to do that.
They picked what they felt was the best bits of the story, and I can understand what they did. And again, it's that Disney of Disney that I keep going on about, because they had dwarfs in the book, but they made them into fairies. Yeah, because fairies are more magical. I mean, the dwarfs in the books, I think the whirlpool is done to drag people into their lair. Okay. So again, you're taking we talked about it in Fox and the Hound. It's adult stories, or adult concepts, but the books are for not younger, but like that 8 to 12 year old kind of range. And to make that into a Disney film...
See, now, if they did this now, they'd smash it.
Oh.
Absolutely smash it.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. We haven't done this for a little while, and I was going to say, should this be remade? Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what? Not a film. Let's Game of Thrones it, because you could.
Oh, yeah. This could be a proper...
Adults.
Disney Plus... series.
Not even Disney Plus. I think if someone like HBO, who didn't have to have that Disney connection, that family,
it should just be made by anyone, not necessarily Disney, but Oh,
that's why I say HBO, because and whatnot. But they would really, really smash it. And I think what's missing from the landscape at the minute, because Game of Thrones has finished, Harry Potter's a subject of its own. The films are still popular.
Yeah, and they're about to do that in a series.
And they're about to do it in a series, so in that sense, the game that came out, that Hogwarts one, that was popular. There's the author, which Lloyd Alexander, there was no issues like that with him. He's just a guy. So someone could really take this and go for it. And I think when you've got things like Lord of the Rings, that TV series, that is showing people still have an interest in all of this. Don't matter how much money you throw at it, it's got to be good. I mean, Disney could use this as theirs. And I heard somewhere that they were remaking it, but I've not heard since.
Okay. Well, out of all of the films so far, this one, Bob, if you are listening...
Oh, I know. Do you know what?
This should have been at the top of that list. When they had that meeting of, we're going to go back to the classics and we're going to remake them for a modern audience. This should have been number one on that list. This,
and I also think that they should have done something with the Rescuers, but not remake them, not live action.
No, well, we said, didn't we? Maybe they could do a bit like how they did Chipping the Rescue Rangers.
Well, that was the Aristocat.
Was it the Aristocats? Yeah.
But this...
Yeah.
Oh, I'd be there for it.
Yeah.
I would.
Animated or live action, either way, I think, especially with how they're making animated films now.
Well, do you know what?
They could easily tackle this.
Because it has some similarities to the whole... Because Frozen is based
I was just about to say Frozen.
Yeah. It's the same concept where you've got the different areas. Cause in
it's
that
mythical.
Film, you've got it split into different scenes and parts, sorry. So you've got like Act 1 is as kids. Act 2, still in the castle kind of thing. Act 3 is outside the castle. Act 4 is the ice thing. So on.
So, the other issues that I had, with this. Now, we've said the story, right?
You've said the story.
I've said the story.
I've not said the story.
Like, the middle... I can't explain the middle. So can't explain why they end up at the castle twice. Why they are the witches twice. It just seems so... And how quickly they end up at the castle as well.
Well, this is the thing, because they cut that... Fairfolk.
Which leads to the characters.
Now...
They're not strong.
I'm going to have to...
And as an example... So the film has started. Now, John Huston has obviously explained the purpose of the cauldron.
Yes.
Right? But that's it. We don't know how Taran has become a pig keeper.
So?
And how he's with that... what's the old man again? Dolbin. And all of a sudden, within a minute of the film, we're seeing this pig has a magic power and it's not explained.
So?
But I feel like we've not been given a backstory to that.
So...
And we're just, she has magic powers. This is random.
So in the book, there's a bigger group of people who are travelling. Okay. And there is a knight. And Taran wants to be the knight. Which actually I think comes across really well.
Yeah, because he has that little... and that's how he loses the pig. Because he's pretending he's looking at his reflection. Which again...
Which happens.
It's a bit random though.
That's in the book.
All of a sudden, it's like, he's wanting to be a knight. And he's, at the same time, the pig's gone missing.
No, he's always wanted to be a knight.
But we don't know that until that scene.
No, he said it before.
Did he?
He's fighting the Horned King with a stick. He's playing with the geese. He's frightening them, and then he falls. And that's when Henwing needs the bath.
Right.
Which gets
and then she gets the magic powers.
He's also with Dolbin saying, it's no match for me and the war will be over soon and what have I done? And Dolbin's like, you shouldn't wish for that.
Yeah.
So that says to me that all the men have gone to war. Mm-hmm.
And he's left behind to look after a pig.
The old and the young are left behind.
Yeah. Oh, boo-hoo.
So Taran is a dreamer he wants to be.
Okay.
For me, he has more of a character than Arthur in Sword of Stone.
No, because you know that Arthur is basically a slave to these horrible people, and he's no education whatsoever, and Merlin goes in and educates him. But who is educating Taran? And all of a sudden, this guy is like, oh, the Horn King's after the pig, so even though you have no experience and you don't know where you're going, you've got to go and get this pigs elsewhere.
Yeah, you gotta hide.
It's like...
Because the Horn King's going
he's
in,
been kept out of... He's had a sheltered life.
To be fair, in the books, they do... The bit... So the birds, the giant birds...
Yeah, that are dragons in the...
circling. They're around. There is a reason why that's not there. And, as I say, the Horn King's not the actual villain. He's like a side...
Yeah.
He's a side villain in a computer game kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they've kind of had to alter all of that. But no, I think Taran, he's a pig keeper. He's too young to be a knight, and he gets the opportunity because he's given this magic sword. He could do anything, and he trades it in for the cauldron because it's the better thing to do. He gives up his dream to save everything. He's just a pig keeper, but he gave up his dream. He gave up his dream, James.
Oh, bless you.
His dream.
Bless you.
That's more of a character than Arthur.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I didn't think he was a strong character, and I don't like him. Like, he's not even a likeable character, personally. No, I like...
He was my namesake on my Disney badge.
I thought Gurgi was.
No, it's Taran.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh. Now, I liked Gurgi.
Gurgi was fun.
And this is another problem I felt that the film was lacking, is that with how dark they went, I felt that the humour and lightness wasn't enough.
Because it was cut by cats and dogs. Because it's part of... the fair folk. Because of how they were done in that film, it was meant to be...
See, for me, the fair folk, right, is such a forgettable scene.
Because of how it's...
And, you know, they don't really do anything in the story.
Not in the finished film.
So they could have completely cut them out and not had them at all. And the story would have still happened as it is.
They have to get them to where the cauldron is. And in the books, as I say, they're gnomes, dwarfs.
Yeah.
So they have a different presence than what's there. I mean, going back to Gurgi is a life-size man-dog.
Oh, yeah.
In the book.
Right, okay.
Not in the film.
He's little, yeah.
So they've Disney-fied that character. He's the same character, though.
Okay.
The whole munching and crunching.
Yeah, is in the book.
It's all very there in the book.
Okay.
I don't know if they use them words, but it's all... Yeah. He steals food and he's a scaredy cat. He buggers off when there's danger and whatnot. So I like that. I think he was a very rounded character, Gurgi.
Didn't get him enough. I feel I wanted to see, but that's because he was the one that I liked the most.
Again, he has the journey. He starts off as a coward.
Yeah, I know, and then obviously,
and then he sacrifices himself because he doesn't know the witches will come back.
For people that
imagine if Olaf sacrificed himself.
But that I can understand because he really goes on the journey. With the characters, whereas Gurgi
has no friends.
But
he's
not with them all the time.
No, I mean he is in the books. This is the thing. I mean he runs off and he disappears.
But this is what I'm saying. Like all these little points.
Yeah.
They do.
Oh, in a TV series.
So there's a lot that they messed up.
Well, I'm gonna argue.
Yeah,
this
you
until
go
end.
you go ahead. Yeah, I felt. The humour and the lightness was lacking. And I think if they'd had more of that, because that is where Pixar does so well.
Yeah.
Because they're able to take quite tough topics. And because of their amazing writing and great humour, they not only can create films for both adult and children, they're able to balance and find a way to put those tough subjects in there, but in a light way.
Well, around this time, the most recent film you can... Because after this, obviously, times change with Basil.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last of this era, but the changes to the company have already been made by that time. So the only one you can do is Fox and the Hound. That is a dark story with very little humour in it.
But it's got heart.
Whereas I feel with the characters of, especially Gergie, and Torrin and Henwin, I felt for Henwin.
The pig!
The pig! Because she's this little sheltered life, and then she's being... Everyone goes through a journey. Everyone goes through it, apart from... even Flo and Flair. I'm never going to be able to say that name. He's a coward.
Fluder
Flam.
Yeah.
And he goes through a journey where it's like, well, I think we're going to wait for me, kind of running and whatnot. But he stands up to those witches.
Yeah.
And he does that, and he becomes the guardian. And, I mean, that whole thing with the harp, I do think that's funny. You've got to admit that
now
is
you've mentioned,
funny.
to be honest, I didn't realise that it happened every time he lied.
Yeah, and he's like, I've played in front of such a Pyong.
Yeah.
I was invited Pyong.
Yeah.
I consider Pyong.
Yeah.
I play music Pyong. Or, I sing Pyong. It's... That harp is a character as well.
Yeah.
So they play, there's your humour. He's only in this for humour. And the witches, you've got one horrible witch, and then you've got two that are there for humour. Then you've got Gergie, who's there for humour. The orb and the princess and Taran, they're your fantasy tropes. They can't be humorous. They've just got to be fair and go on their journey, fall in love. So they all go on their thing. I think I would agree when you say characters are not rounded. The Horn King is not rounded.
No, well, again, okay, I mean, he is mentioned, obviously, right at the start in the narration, the prologue.
I'm a turn in your mind. Am I?
No?
Not getting you on board?
No. But
right, we'll see
even
you next
though
week.
he looks
he looks
scary, and he sounds scary, I didn't feel like he was a threat.
No, and that I will say that he's not rounded.
And I felt like they were able to get in and out of that castle too easily.
Yeah, I think if they'd
and she's randomly there, like
that's
appearing.
How they meet. That's how they meet in the book.
I know.
I'm going to defend this,
but
film
it's still. I still
end.
don't like that is how it happened. Especially when they changed so much from the books. Anyway, I feel like with them not enough. This is I think the problem when not just Disney, but if any studio attacks a series of films, a series of books.
Yeah.
If you're not going to do the individual books as they are written, and you're going to create a film or a miniseries based on, then, make it better.
See, if I was to say that where the Horn King, when they escape the first time, and where they meet Fluder. I even written it phonetically, but I've lost the page. When that happens, that is the end of the Horn King's story.
Right.
And it's actually the bigger bad. I mean, the Cauldron's only the second book. It's not in it after it.
But they make it the main thing.
That's the thing. And if they was to beat the Horned King at that point, and then bigger villain comes in, and that's the one that's mentioned at the beginning, I think that is enough characterization for the Horned King, but you would have to redo this new character.
Or...
I mean, there's 30 characters in that book, and they use like 6.
Yeah.
Like,
or if they've done what they've done in the past, in the olden days of Disney, where they use special, like, direction, and you don't necessarily see the Horned King.
Yes.
But you maybe just see a shadow, and you hear the voice, and you don't see him until the end. Just like you don't see the dragon in Sleeping Beauty to the end. That would have been a build-up to this villain.
And you know what? They do that, but they do it wrong. They show the Horned King first.
Yeah. Because he sat in the seat.
Yeah.
In his throne.
And he's talking, he's saying, soon I will have my army and whatnot. And they show him completely. And then for the rest of the film, you see his hand. You see his hood, the cloak. So they're kind of like, oh, here's what he looks like, but we're not going to show you what he looks like.
Until,
Because at the end, it's going to be this big, awful skeleton. It's like, yeah, no, I've already seen him.
And instead of them wandering around, I say wandering, instead of the scene where they're first in the castle, and obviously they're trying to escape, right? I felt that went on too long.
Yeah.
And I feel like she was clearly finding a way out.
Yeah.
And I feel like if she'd managed to get out, but she'd bumped into Taran as he was going in, and then that could have been a nice scene where she's just come out, but then it's like he needs help. He needs to get in there because he needs to find his pig. And then going in together, they then found Fluder and save him as well.
See, in the original, I think she lives with her aunt in that castle.
And do we know what the light is?
The orb?
Yeah.
It's a mystical orb.
But what does she explain what it is?
No.
Okay.
But in the books.
Right, but not in this.
In the books.
It's randomly following her around, but we don't know what it is.
That she has to carry.
Okay.
And it has the magical
But they just
power.
have it floating around her.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, again,
it's not explained, but
no,
I don't think...
It's not explained. And yes, it does need to be explained.
I don't think it does.
It does, because what's its purpose? She didn't need it. It does nothing to her character.
It's starring Wish. Oh my god.
It's not.
Does Wish appear at the end in the credits? Because if it does, and
what, you think that's the Black Cauldron?
Headcanon.
Anyway. Yeah, and it needed music.
See, I'm glad that the reason why I liked this film growing up was because it didn't have music. Because I know this is going to sound weird, but some boys, gay or straight, when they watch a Disney film, they don't want all of that nicey musical thing. They want a film. And I liked the fact that Disney
But Basil isn't a musical. But that has a great theme tune.
Yes, but then...
Like, I can hum that. Beginning.
I haven't seen it that many times.
Right.
So it's...
And that was another point as well that I wanted to make. So you've got, like you pointed out, they finished Basil. Right? Before this. And yet... that was a much, in my opinion, a much better film. And it's a boys' film.
Yeah, I mean, boys' film. When we get to Oliver and Company, this is one of the things, and Little Mermaid. So the Little Mermaid, and I quote, would not make as much money as Oliver and Company.
Because it wasn't a boys' film.
Because it's not a boys' film, and girls' film don't make that much money.
But it's crazy to think that both Basil and this were being made alongside each other at one point, because the difference in a lot of things You know, it's like you would not think that they were made by the same company.
I mean, I think...
Apart from the fact, like you said earlier when you were going through your facts, that they had to bring in one of the 9 old men to make them look like a Disney character.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that is a huge alarm bell.
Yeah.
If you can't get these young animators who've been at the school...
Yeah.
And they've come in,
point,
if they can't draw...
2 or 3 films.
I know. If they can't draw in a Disney way yet, that's a big red flag. And I personally think, and we know that they have done it before, and a few times, I feel like this should have been shelved and picked up later. And I think that because of what was happening with the CEO, nobody was there to take charge and say, this is not going the direction we wanted. We've spent enough money as it is. Let's put a pin in it and let's focus on Basil.
Yeah. And
because with all the hits from the live action films, they could have managed 1 more year without an animated film.
And the thing is as well, with this, and I go back to Ron Miller, because he was the last person who was kind of the one person in charge. Because after he goes, you've got Roy O. Disney on one side, you've got Jeffrey Katzenberg on another, you've got Michael Eisner doing what he's doing, Frank Wells doing what he's doing. That is a lot of people in charge, all butting heads.
Well, a lot of people that, obviously, we know who is in charge, but then we've got these other people that think they're in charge as well.
Whereas Ron Miller, he had that single vision, and what he was putting in place, I reckon this film could have been something different. And it didn't happen.
But hey, at least they have one person that loves it as much as they hoped.
One person? There's a whole person. It's actually...
I know. I think there's like...
on IMDb. How much did Alice in Wonderland get? Was that like 5 something? And we were like, whoa, that's generous.
No.
Yeah.
Let's
there was
go back.
Something on those.
I think it was, I'm sure it was a 7, and we were like, no.
So the fact that this is only just, about a percentage...
Don't get me wrong. It was a 7.1. I mean, I'm taking a bit of the piss with my problems and issues with the film.
Me up.
Yeah. Because I
forgotten Mulan is coming.
I do put this film on. And as far as nostalgia reasons, like I say, I swear we had a pirate copy. And it was one of those where that Flight of Dragons film that I mentioned, the cartoon Lord of the Rings, these were all ones that I watched with my grandma that she'd recorded when they came on TV. I mean, it could have actually been then. Yeah. She might have recorded it when it was that...
The cut down.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it is only an hour and 20 minutes.
This came at the right time for me because I was 8 when the video was released, 9... I was 8 for that Christmas, but I was 9, obviously, a few months later. It's a boy film. I was very much into, shock horror, but I was into things like He-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I liked the other stuff, the Wombles and all that, but Stingray, and I liked the fact that this was a boys film. And because, this shocked Luke, I'd never seen Jurassic Park. But growing up, I had Jurassic Park things because they were dinosaurs. Yeah. So to me, this came at the right time. You were only 3 when it came out. Yeah, but, you would have been too young. Yeah, but as time went on, the first time I saw it was with Luke. Oh, was it? Yeah. Oh, God. But I had a t-shirt, I had the dinosaur, I had books, everything. And this came at the right time. And it fitted what I wanted from a Disney film. Because by the time I was kind of done with this, Toy Story 2 came out.
Mm-hmm.
Bug's Life was already out. And then Pixar kind of started. Then we had Shrek.
Yeah.
Because what Disney were making at that time, in this 2000s era, was not anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually put this higher than I do what I call the proper dark ages, those early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I got more from this than I did from Tarzan.
I mean, there's things in it that I enjoy enough where, you know, I'll say to Finlay, oh, we put on Black Cauldron, you know. Like, there was a day where we put Sword in the Stone and this on, like, one after the other. We were in that mood for, you know, those
kind of films.
Yeah, those kind of films. And there are scenes in it that are fun and that I do enjoy.
Yeah.
However, the last time, so apart from obviously watching it for this podcast, I watched it with my mum when I last visited it around Easter. And she kept looking over at me, and we got to the end of the film and she was like, I remembered this better. And I was like, yeah. I says, I have watched it loads, but I really sat and paid attention to this film. I think it was because, like, Finlay, we were sat together and it was like, yeah, and he was watching it, and I was glad that he was watching it.
I mean, he's a few years younger than what I would have been.
Yeah.
And if you think what kind of things he's into with his
I mean,
Lego
he didn't
children
find the
and
Horn
stuff.
King scary.
No.
But
I mean,
that shows where kids are today
Yeah.
compared to back then.
I mean, I will say this out because it's similar eras. Horn King, I think, looks scary.
Yeah,
and I
but
think
he
he's
is not.
one of the scariest looking villains.
Yeah.
However, I had to turn off Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
What was his name? Doom.
With the eyes. Yeah, that went off.
Oh, me too.
That went off.
That freaked me out. I had nightmares.
I could not tell you how old I was.
I did not want to get that ooze on me.
Yeah.
Or whatever it's called. Can't remember.
He's scared that... Well, I started watching it because obviously we're looking at this, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to fit this in and the other ones and whatnot. But I started watching it, and oh my... I forgot how much of a good film. And I had to turn it off because I wanted to sit and enjoy it properly without sat there researching at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So,
But no, he is a villain.
Yeah.
Whereas, the Horn King, not really a threat.
No.
And that's...
But we're entering, this era seems to have...
Ratigan
Ratigan
is a threat.
So really, from this period, if you look at the villains, Horn King looks the part, Ratigan is the part. You've then got Oliver and Company. That he is a villain.
Sykes.
Yeah.
He
Is
the
a
snap
villain.
of the finger and the dog's attack.
And then we've got Ursula.
I know.
Which only
We've got a good run of villains coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, in terms of look and sound, the Horned King has the ingredients of a villain.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he wasn't given the threat that he needed by the creators.
Can you imagine this in live action? Sorry.
I know. It would
That
be
whole
fab.
thing. Oh,
That's why Disney, you need to remake the Black Cauldron.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just pulling in some favours here because when I was in Sainsbury's last time I met Bob.
People are going to start to believe that you really met him in Sainsbury's.
And
to his weekly shop.
I call him the Big B. And I was like, oh, you're alright, we were talking and whatnot. And to be fair, there was only one lot of almond milk left. And I don't drink almond milk.
Okay.
Let you have it. And he was like, oh, thanks. So I let you have that last carton of almond milk. I don't know where I'm going with this. And so, please, just make it before HBO do. And whilst you're employing
And this is more needed than a live action Moana.
Oh, yeah.
Of all the remakes, this is needed.
Yeah.
Because they could right the wrongs.
Oh, not even right the wrongs, because there is no wrongs. But they could take this and run with it
Yeah.
for adults. And then they could, I mean, all I'm going to say is make it as a live action series. You get all your streaming and the money from that. Get some merchandise in with it. Product placement and whatnot. Then you got your merchandise. Get that out there, because Lord of the Rings still makes money on merchandise now. So
And Harry Potter.
Yeah. So you could have all of this.
Oh, I mean, we're talking...
a little Gurgi.
Swords, a Gurgi,
Yeah.
cuddly Gurgi.
Yeah, I mean, a cauldron, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Like, and then dolls.
Yeah,
Just-
a long way as a doll.
Yeah. Like, all of that. Do that, you've just made loads of merchandise.
Yeah.
Not only that, but you could release the Blu-ray of the extended Black Cauldron, and oh my God, you're making more money from something you've already got.
It's one of those films that, you
You're
know,
making more money from
where it has a following now. There is fans.
It does have a following, and I think actually Disney have... I think they were a bit like, crap, we've got this film, we kind of need to do something with it in the parks. We haven't got anything else from the last 10 years that could go in the park. Because let's face it, Winnie the Pooh was 8 years before then. So that's the only thing they could put in the park.
Mm-hmm.
It's very age range specific, that
Yeah.
film. So I think they thought that, and then when the Renaissance came on, it was like, we've got loads more we can put in there.
Yeah.
And then it's been forgotten, but now we've got our age range.
Uh-huh.
And I think this has happened with Robin Hood and The Rescuers.
Uh-huh.
We're starting to appreciate those films more.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King are amazing films. Of course, they are.
Yeah.
But I'm sick of that being the main Disney thing.
Yeah.
When I want a pin,
I know.
I want
you want the Black Cauldron.
The Black Cauldron pin.
Yeah.
When I want a Christmas ornament, I will always get a Rescuers Christmas ornament.
Yeah. I mean, have they done a Black Cauldron Christmas ornament?
No. And they should. But then they haven't done a Tarzan one either, so...
Have they not? No. Steve Thompson, if you're listening, I know you're the one that designs those tree ornaments. Get drawing. Make us a Black Cauldron ornament.
Right.
To
Steve.
put on our tree.
I don't know where you shop. I haven't seen you in Sainsbury's. I am there a lot. That's Bob.
Yeah, come
Just
on.
saying.
Give us a Black Cauldron tree ornament.
I think I once got a reply from him on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway.
On that note. Oh, and quickly, my score, 3. I'll give it a 3.
So.
That is being generous.
No, it's not. As a Disney film, it's a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Because I did the exact
but
same thing.
But if Don Bluth had made this, he probably would have done it better.
As a film that's... Take away the Disney mindset, because you know what we're looking for in a Disney film.
Yeah.
This isn't a Disney film.
No.
It's a 5.
Okay.
Out of 5.
Okay.
And I'll always enjoy this film, always. And I know it's got its haters, but do you know what?
Hey, I can't wait for Mulan.
That sounds like a you problem, not a me. Because I love it. I get to watch another Disney film, you don't.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'm half tempted just to wander on until we reach the 2 hour 10 minutes. Because then it'll be our longest one. And then,
Oh my God, yeah.
So
if you've managed to stay with us till the end, we applaud.
No. If Bob Iger can make it to the end. And Steve Thompson. Who else? Who else do I need to talk to? Lassiter. Where are you?
Oh no, he's been binned.
He's what? Been binned?
Yeah, he's blacklisted.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I thought he was back with the company.
No. I know.
Google it.
Yeah. Google it.
Google it.
Yeah. Right. On that note. Yeah.
It's goodbye from
Stephen.
It's goodbye from her. And it's goodbye from me.
Yes. Toodaloo.
Toodle pip.